Are we live?
Yes.
Oh, what a beautiful thing on Labor Day weekend of all things. And today we're talking Texas. So it's really exciting that we're able to do our second live podcast. And today we're going all the way to Texas, one of Terry's favorite places. I lived in Texas. I think, Terry, you know that, for 10 years. I lived in Houston, not in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but at any rate, we got our founder, the legend, Terry Gilliam. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, David. You can stop sharing your screen now.
Oh, yes, sir. Let's see. Stop sharing. I thought you wanted to see that picture on the top right. We also have
Sure.
Joshua Long, a longtime realtor in Dallas. How you doing, Josh?
Welcome.
And we got Andrea. She actually moved from California. She's going to talk a little bit more about that later. And
Okay.
She's in the Fort Worth area. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. And then Josh, you brought along a lender today. Do you want to introduce your lender?
Yeah, I brought Chad Rutherford with me. Chad is over the last 5 years, I've handled over 67 California relocations to Dallas, Fort Worth, really more the eastern side, not necessarily Fort Worth side where Andrea is at, but Chad has actually helped on majority of those. I'd say probably 50% of those. He's actually represented that buyer that's relocating. And so just a lot of the relocation programs he's used with me in the past, and just also the white gloves approach to helping educate, really when it comes down to it, how lending works, how timelines work, especially different from California. I mean, we all know that it's a little bit different as far as our option periods as well as underwriting. And so it really does help to have, I'm sure Andrea will touch on this as well. It really does help to have a Texas lender on your offer.
Yes.
You're coming over. I can tell you right now that a lot of other Texas agents do not like seeing agents, or lenders from out of state, just from the standpoint that they're only concerned about getting it closed. And they know a majority of people or a majority of lenders that are out of this state necessarily don't know about our timeframes and the differences in underwriting. So this Chad Rutherford with Eagle Mortgage, a longtime friend. I first met Chad was the first person I met when I moved to DFW from California in 2006. He was the very first client I had with First American Title. And so we've been running together for quite a while now.
Wow, Josh, it sounds like you really help a lot of Californians get out of California and get to the Lone Star State. So, and we'll get back to you, Chad. We're going to feature you today, and we're going to talk about lending and what it's like to buy a house in Texas. But Andrea, you just recently, I guess not too long ago, left California and moved. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
I left about 3 years ago from Riverside, California to Weatherford, Texas, which is a more rural area of Texas, about 30 minutes from Fort Worth, and we are just loving it here.
That's awesome. And Terry, tell us about your Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas stories. Let's hear one.
I actually lived in Dallas-Fort Worth in Arlington, Texas in 1985. I was with Chili's there when they were a little tiny concept. They only had about 30 restaurants at the time. And they said, I was managing there, and they said, we want to really start expanding California. So they sent me out to California in 1986, and that was the beginning of my California journey, which lasted 35 years, which was about 5 years longer than I wanted to be out there. But fortunately, I'm enjoying Florida now. Been here for 2 years. Love Central Florida, but I love the DFW area too. The nice thing is you typically this time of year, you're not very cold when you're in Dallas. I was just there over the weekend and it was pretty darn warm, but yeah.
Well, it's not hell, but you can definitely feel it from here.
Yes.
Well, I don't know which one I want to start with, but I know both of you guys help a lot of people move. But maybe both of you, Joshua and Andrea, you guys could share a little bit. Why are so many people asking questions on our Leaving California groups, and why are so many Californians looking to go to Texas?
Why don't you take that, Andrea, first, and then I'll follow up with you.
Well, a lot of the people I get leaving California for political reasons or whatever it is, are leaving for their children to give them a better life, to get into public school. And where I'm at, a lot of people have horses and have land and just want that slower pace of life, I would say, and really contact me about the school systems and are interested in moving here and want like a couple acres or something and be close to the city in case they have to commute as well. So that's mostly what I'm seeing from my clients.
And Andrea, you've got hills in your area, right?
There's a little bit, but it's pretty But you see a lot of ranches out here. The rodeo's real big. There's a lot of people that it's the cutting horse capital of the world. So a lot of people moving here already have horses from California, maybe, or they just want a lot of land and be far away from neighbors and do all the things.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I guess, Josh, one of the questions I have is, I'm sure some people are wondering why we don't typically have two realtors on our podcast. But why do we have two realtors from Dallas Fort Worth? If you could talk about geographically, what that looks like. And again, same question, why are so many Californians choosing Texas? Josh?
And Andrew's a great compliment. Obviously, Terry and I really don't remember how long Terry and I have known each other now. It's been 5+ years at least. But in general, I mean, Texas, I mean, DFW, when you hear the DFW, people think of one big region, and it's really, I mean, it's the difference of San Diego to Orange County San Diego. Let's just use San Diego to like Inland Empire, San Bernardino, or Riverside County. I mean, just because they're all lumped in one, and just because they're 47 miles apart, really, when you think of Fort Worth and Dallas or the different regions, I mean, they are two different countries in a lot of cases. I mean, you need to have local representation in those areas. And I have had a couple of clients in the last, say, 5-6 years that have been over in the Weatherford area. And realistically, even for me to go 47 miles, that could take me an hour and a half. And I mean, in general, when it comes to it, one thing that Andrea touched on that's a big factor for so many families are school districts. And our school districts, regardless of what county you're on, in Texas, California, there's 27 counties. In Texas, there's 254. And, when you're looking at, like, let's say McKinney, for instance, if you live in McKinney, you can be in 4 different school districts. And so depending on what school district you want to be in, or what school district's appealing to you, that really breaks it down in that city, in that area. And you really have to know someone that knows those areas well. There's so many areas over on the west side where Andrea is at. I'm sorry, I keep saying Andrea. I know it's Andrea, so I'm sorry.
Okay.
Andrea.
But it really comes down to, you have to know what schools are up and coming, which ones have dual language, which ones have rural areas. Chad and I cover, really, if you look at it, more Dallas, Collin, Denton, and Grayson County, which are all your northern regions. If you break up the Metroplex into what's like a quadrant, like if you've ever read Robert Kiyosaki, there's the cash flow quadrant. The DFW area is really split into 4 quadrants. And Chad and I have really handled more of the northern area in a lot of aspects. Now, obviously, he can handle the whole state, but in general, the people that are coming here, a lot of those that are coming to northern Collin County and now Grayson County are coming because of a lot of job relocation. I mean, Plano, Frisco, and really McKinney. I don't want to say McKinney as much, but northern Dallas, Plano, and Frisco. I mean, you have 30 of the top Fortune 300 companies in the world right here. And there are more and more companies moving here, right? In the northern region where we have offices. So Chad and I both have offices in Sherman, McKinney, and Gunner. Which kind of goes up and down, 75. I mean, so from one county to the next north. But you also have now in Grayson County, you have TI, Texas Instrument, opening up a new plant that's 3,500 employees. And then Global Wafers is opening up another plant along with Globotech that's bringing another 1,700 employees into that region. And those are rural regions. When you get up into Grayson County, you're talking for years would have been more like the Weatherford area in a lot of aspect, up by a massive lake, but a lot of rolling hills, a lot of massive pine trees, a lot of sandy loams. So you have a lot of horse country up in the Whitesboro, Collinsville, Valley View area, Denton. But in general, I mean, we do have clients that are relocating for the opportunity to get a little bit more acreage. And in general, those are the northern counties can be a little less expensive. But most of it really truly has to come down to Collin County is one of them, I think now is in the top 5 affluent counties in the country. It has a lot of phenomenal shopping, jobs, economy wise. It offers so much so many different aspects for so many families that are leaving and coming to DFW. And realistically, I mean, I think that Andrea will probably laugh about this, but when I first got here, I mean, Dallas and Fort Worth is literally like you're eating sushi in Dallas, and that's called fish bait in Fort Worth. They are 2 different environments altogether. I mean, there are 2 different groups of people, and that's one of the things that Chad and I enjoy in our northern regions as you get a little bit more like where Andrea lives. I mean, it's great people, very slow. I mean, a slow lifestyle, great jobs, a great economy. People can make a lot of money. It's not like a lack of, if you're out in the rural areas, you're not going to make great money. And, realistically, they're all growing in their areas of schools and shopping. But in general, the main thing if you're coming with kids, and I guess I shouldn't even say that anymore, because a lot of families are coming for specifics, even downsizing, retirees.
Mhm.
You get the wrong district, your property taxes are going to be a lot higher based off the property, the school district you're in. So you have to know those different pieces and know what's really important. If you get it, if you buy something that maybe is a little bit better deal, it feels like a little better deal, and you're in a school district that's maybe subpar, when you go to sell, that turns over when you're selling as well. So if you're looking for your value on both ends, those are some really important pieces, like Andrea touched with schools and jobs in general, and definitely the political part. You know, I hate to get too political because I can get on a soapbox and have a lot of fun with that. But in general, most people are coming, you know, and for the idea for the liberty of being able to have a lot of their just liberties that were taken away, especially during the pandemic. You know, that was a crazy time. Chad and I actually handed keys to 9 different clients that never saw a house that they were under contract with before they got here during COVID. So that was a little bit crazy. So.
Wow. Josh, thank you. That it sounds like Texas just it's such a big state. It has so much to offer, and it just must be amazing for these clients to be able to come in and talk to both of you guys that are both transplants from California. You guys got out. And since Andrea, since you left a little bit sooner, maybe you could share what do you think the top 3 reasons people are leaving, and why are they choosing Texas?
The people I'm meeting are leaving for a better conservative life, and like Josh said, to have their freedoms and to give their kids a better life. And they love the outdoors and they want to go to the lakes and go fishing and do all the things, and just they don't want their kids inside on tablets all day. They want the better school systems. Like, for example, California, the max I think is 36 kids a class. Every class my son's been in was 16 to 17 students. I mean, I feel like it's like a private school almost. And even the high schools out here give you college classes for your kids, like whether it's mechanics, welding, or cosmetology or teaching. Kids can start in high school to better themselves and have college credits when they graduate. So I feel like they offer so much more. Mm-hmm. And there's also people, like Josh said, that are coming here just to retire and have a slower pace of life and a quiet life. And they like the small country towns or the bigger towns, and there's lots of job opportunities here.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Andrea. And before we turn it over to Chad and we start getting into the nuts and bolts of buying a home in Texas, Terry, do you have anything else you want to add to those 2 comments there?
No, I've spent a lot of time with Andrea and Josh over the last couple of years, and love all the areas they represent. There are some great areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I spent like 4 days in Weatherford a year or 2 ago. I can't remember how long ago that was, but it was a great area, and a lot of small towns surrounding Weatherford, even smaller than Weatherford, but yet you're not that far from Fort Worth. Right. And of course the airport when you're down that way. You feel like you're in a completely different area because it's somewhat rural, but yet you drive half hour, 45 minutes, you're at the airport. So it's very convenient that way.
Well, Chad, I appreciate you being so quiet there in the background, and the fact that you're here with this group and you're part of our Leaving California family. I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, so you must be really, really on top of your game when it comes to buying houses in Texas. So if you would like to take it away, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about what it's like to buy a house in the great state of Texas, and any other thoughts that might help people that are thinking about leaving California or definitely getting out of the state.
Sure. Thank you guys for having me. So, I've been in the mortgage business for about 17 years. Opened Eagle Mortgage back in 2009. We're just a small mortgage broker. So we represent about 40 different lenders and have several different first-time homebuyer programs, buy before you sell programs. So we offer pretty much everything except for land loans and construction loans. So getting into, one of the biggest things I see when people are moving from California to Texas is, the payment shock of the property taxes is what I see. That is, it's just a real big shock to them. And the other thing is when they're looking online at Zillow and other online sources, they're not getting an accurate snapshot of what their actual monthly payment's going to be. A lot of times the homeowner's insurance is way under estimated along with the property taxes. So something that we do when we do our initial consultation is just kind of explain to them the different tax rates, how it can vary between every county and city that you're in, and just preparing them for what that payment's going to look like.
Mhm. What does the taxes look like compared to California taxes in Texas?
So on average here, like I know out in Tarrant County, I mean, the taxes you can look at about 2.75% is a lot of the values out there. Here in North Texas, you could be anywhere from 1.75 all the way up to 3.25, depending on the neighborhoods. So what I've seen, I mean, the taxes are usually double, if not triple in some cases, what people are seeing in California.
Yeah, the beauty of California years ago was Prop 13 that kept everything at a flat rate. And so when you're moving here, and that's one of the things we're talking about a little bit ago with Andrea as well, you really want to know, because literally you can be in Weatherford, and if you're in two different school districts, you're gonna have two different tax codes, and one could be 2.3 and one could be 2.75, and that can make a drastic difference on your price, on the price of, you know, what you're going under contract with, or what your monthly payment's going to be.
Understood. And then I guess before we continue on with this buying a home, maybe both of you guys could share some median house prices, days on market, some things that people can look for when they're buying Texas real estate.
You want to go first? You want me to go first, Andrea?
Go ahead, Josh.
So it's right now. I mean, right now in my opinion, we're in a 5-month cycle right now to the end of the year where this is a great time to buy in Texas, because in general, we've really flattened out over the last 6 months. I mean, we've gone from just an overly crazy seller's market, buyers beware. You're just in a, you know, you better come with a lot of money. You better be willing to go way over, and you better be willing to, you know, it was a seller's terms on everything. So right now, most of Collin County, let's just use Collin County for an example, and Grayson County as well. Right now, Collin County is at 2.9 homes per buyer. Our supply and demand is about 2.9, which on a national average, 3.5 or above or below. I'm sorry, 3.5 or below is definitely a seller's market. Right now, our inventory level is at about a 3, almost a 3.0 in Collin County. Let's just use 6 months ago, that was at 0.8.
Wow.
So literally,
hey, Josh, before you continue,
yeah.
I'm not familiar with the counties.
Yeah.
And maybe when you talk about counties, talks about proximity, yep. So that we know where you're talking about.
Yep. So when you talk about Collin County, you're talking about McKinney, Plano, Frisco, Prosper, Salina, Allen, Fairview, Lucas. When I say Grayson County, you're going to be talking about Sherman, Denison, Van Alstyne, Gunner. You have a lot of different little areas in there, but each one of those cities has a different property tax regarding it. A lot of it has to do with the school district. You're going to see the real fluctuation in whatever the school district may be. But right now, what we're seeing is the inventory is not necessarily where it needs to be, but it definitely is better than it was a year ago. But with interest rates being what it is, I mean, Chad and I, over the last 3 and 4 months, we've got quite a few people under contract, really at under asking price, and getting $10,000 to $15,000 in concessions to buy down rates. So my true opinion is, if you're looking to come from California to Texas, this is not a bad time to be doing it. I mean, in general, you have a much better chance of not getting into a multiple offer situation, but you're also, the one thing that I truly believe, and this is, I've talked to a lot of local economists as well as just economists with NAR. If our interest rates get back down to 5, which we're not there right now, obviously, but in the middle of December, if we get into 5s, Katie, bar the doors. I mean, I think the beginning of next year will be nuts again. And you will be back in a situation as a Californian looking to buy in a multiple offer situation, going and looking at a house. You better be ready to make an offer. I mean, I'm showing houses to people and coming back 2 weeks later and getting to let them see that house again. So our local market, I mean, to sum it up, really, when it comes down to it, David and Terry, here's what we've become a normalized seller's market. It's balanced. So in general, most of our sellers are expecting to be on the market for 30 to 45 days before they get an offer within 6% of their asking price. And a lot of the asking prices right now, we're starting to see a lot of reductions, which is great. It's awesome to see properties when it comes to it, down to it, when I'm viewing these properties on a daily basis for clients, watching them come down and being able to give them flexibility. I'm saying, hey, you guys don't need to be here next weekend to see these 5 houses. Hey, over the next couple of weeks, let's get when you come, let's get a whole group of houses that we can go and show. And I know Andrea does this as well. the most important part when you come here is literally working with an agent that will take a full day and drive you in and out of these communities. Like Chad said a minute ago, Zillow's phenomenal to give you an aspect of what a house costs and what the house looks like, but it does not give you a snapshot on what that community looks like, that town or that neighborhood. In Jill, you might fly out to see a property that when you drive in the neighborhood, you're going to go, no way, not living here. So we do that. And I know Andrea does that as well. We like to spend that first day actually taking you to 4 or 5 C's and giving you a better feel.
Right.
So that when we're looking to maybe make some offers or start going and actually looking at houses, maybe in day 2 and 3, we're shooting arrows versus shotguns. I mean, we get a really good feel of what feels good to you, because like Terry said a minute ago, even out in the Weatherford area, there's phenomenal cities like Aledo and Weatherford, Mineral Wells, and places that are great places to live. And you may not even know those exist because they're such small areas that are a 5-10 minute drive from a Weatherford or a Fort Worth. I mean, in general, it's a great time to buy, but we are definitely in a balanced, I don't want to call it a seller's market. I really feel like right now the advantage goes to, I mean, both parties. Right now we're looking for win-win situations on offers.
So in my market, we're having a lot of the same stuff, and it sure is refreshing to know that there's seller concessions going on. There's price reductions. There's a little bit more normalcy. You know, people aren't saying, no, you're just going to take it as is. We request for repairs. We're getting stuff done. Andrea, if you could share some in your area and some other things about your housing market as well, please.
Well, in say Weatherford and Poolville and Springtown, where I'm at, where they're a little more rural, a standard house, maybe the median's about 300,000, but if you want an acre or two, it's more like 400,000 or 500,000 for a brand new home. And like Josh said, they're offering $10,000 to $20,000 concessions, either to bring down the price or bring down your rate. And then Josh also mentioned Aledo, which is like 15-20 minutes to Fort Worth, and they are very well known for their schools district. They have a little bit of a higher tax rate, maybe 2.5% to 3%, depending on where you're at. And those houses more are around 500,000. But it's a beautiful community. It's growing, it's building. Same with over here. A lot of people like the school district in Brock, and it's very more rural too. And they're very big on football and all things. So
easy.
Hey, Brock is big on football.
That's Gunner, where Chad and I both live in Gunner. That's our big rivalry every year.
Oh, is it? Well,
We
they're
play
good.
this, Chad, don't we play Brock this week or next week?
Next week.
It's next week. Last year, Brock and
Well-
Gunner both played for state championships in 3A football. So,
Okay, let's see what happens.
hey, we look to go 2-0, baby. 2-0.
Hey, and you know what I realized out here is big, which my son is 7, now racing is motocross. And who would have thought? But I thought he was going to be a little rodeo star, but he's going to be a motocross star. So out here, there's tracks everywhere. We have a 2-acre track in my backyard, and like the kids everywhere are just outside living life, and it's great.
So do you concur with Josh in your area that it is more of a balanced market and sellers don't get to make all the rules?
Oh, absolutely. And right now the builders, they're still building, and they're building on 1 to 2 acre lots. And there's a lot of inventory right now. And I feel like Josh, like the buyers should totally take advantage of this market right now, because once those rates go down to 5, it's going to be hard to be contingent or to get into a house. And then you're just overpaying for it.
I know for me, it's so crazy that when my buyers are saying, oh, you know, we're just going to wait till the interest rates come down.
Yeah.
I always say the same thing. I'm like, no, you don't. You
No.
do not want that to happen. So let's go back to Chad.
Right now is the perfect time to buy the perfect house and date the rate. Date the
Yeah.
rate for the next year.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
find the perfect property, because contingencies are so easy today. I mean,
Mhm.
a year and a half ago, forget that. I mean, now
Mhm.
contingencies, sellers are asking, do your clients have contingencies? We're okay with that. This is a great,
Yeah.
it's like a perfect storm right now on the other side for the buyer, where a year ago was the perfect storm for a seller.
Right, right.
All right, Chad, what else?
Well,
do
and
you
it's
have
like
to add?
with first time home buyers, you know, I think this is a very small window for first time home buyers with, you know, not a lot of money to put down, getting into these down payment assistance programs while interest rates are up. Because as soon as we get down 5.5 range, you know, it's going to be multiple offer, and it's going to push a lot of these first time home buyers out, and they might not be able to re-enter for a few years. So, you know, these next 4 or 5 months is great opportunity for first time home buyers.
Right.
And Terry, you're being awful quiet today. We're talking about your favorite thing, leaving California, buying a new home. We've got a Dallas Fort Worth area. What's going on in your head, Terry?
Well, I also want people to understand that the weather's a little different in that area of Texas than it is in like along the coast in California. So people just need to be ready for that. They definitely get all 4 seasons there. So it's I was just there over the weekend and it was pretty darn warm. So people just need to be ready for that. Now, if you're from the Inland Empire, it probably won't be that much different, right, Andrea?
Right?
Yeah. So, but it's a lot more, but the freedom is a whole lot better when you're out there.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was actually my next line of questioning. So we've got these people that are in our groups, leading California groups, and I was going to ask, so people that are considering Texas, what are some of the other thoughts? So we're putting you guys are back in Josh, I hate to bring you back to California, but you're back in California and you're in these shoes and you're like, I'm thinking about going to Texas. What are a couple of the other things that you guys find where they're like, I'm not sure about Texas because of what?
Well, I mean, obviously 5 years ago when this all started, this California, I don't use it as a California invasion. I mean, realistically, I think most Texans now love the fact that the Californians they've gotten over the last 5 years have been people very like-minded that I feel like, I mean, when I moved from California, I moved from the deserts. I actually lived just north of Big Bear up in the mountain desert area. And so you have a massive conservative realm that still moved here. And most people go, well, Texas is purple now. Well, here's the deal. I will tell you this, my family, I grew up in California, but my family are actually 6th generation Texans, it's ranchers and farmers up in the north part. Texas for years until the 80s was a Democratic state run by Houston and San Antonio. I mean, it's never been a landslide 30%. But what I can tell you right now, in general, that has had a big effect. I mean, our Californians that have come that have voted have been great. And I tell you right now that the stigma that most say, hey, when I come here, do I tell people I'm from California? I don't think it's quite as bad as it was even 5 years ago when I first moved back. But I'll tell you the biggest thing that they talk about right now. I mean, what buyers were buying with Chad and I 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and what they were able to get 5 years ago into Texas. I mean, definitely I would say the invasion has brought up the prices have come up quite a bit. I mean, in McKinney, 5 years ago, you were able to buy in the high 200s, and now the bottom of the market in McKinney is really probably 475 to 500. Okay. The big thing about that when it comes, and Chad touched on it, is the tax part. People talk about the taxes going, oh my gosh, that's crazy tax wise. And I go, well, listen, I don't know what you're looking at when it comes to property taxes, because I know they're a lot higher there in California, but you are going to lose a 15% state income state tax. There's so many things that wash this out. And, Andrea said it a minute ago. I mean, even where we lived in the desert and the mountain region, which is very conservative in California, we still had to look at private schools for our kids. And private schools, you're talking $1,500 to $2,000 a month for 2 or 3 kids to go to school at the best cost. So if you take that number to get great public education, let's just say $1,000, that's $12,000 a year in education that you're not paying. So it's a total wash. You might have an extra $10,000 in property taxes, but your kids are going to public schools that have a lot of one-on-one attention. One thing Andrea said that I really love, and I actually want to hit this one right in the mouth. The one thing I absolutely love about our school systems here, even in, I would say, even the more urban areas, public education has a massive emphasis here on the trades. I mean, college is great, and nobody's going to deter your kids from going to school at schools here. I mean, you have the opportunity to do all your dual credits, which is amazing. But I mean, in a public education here with welders and plumbers and all these different trades, electricians, they really heavily push that. And there's kids that literally go to my kids' school here in Gunner that have half day, and then they go work for a welder and an apprenticeship program, different things, so that when they're done, when they get out of high school, they have a great opportunity for them. Where I know for a fact, still having some family that are in the Inland Empire as well, their kids there don't even have that option. It's not even an option for them to do something like that. So we're giving our kids such an advantage for not only just going to, secondary education in college or higher learning, we're giving them the option to also go into the trades, which we all know right now are shrinking across the country. And those kids that are getting involved in that have a much better opportunity financially for the future going into those, because there is a lack of those trades. But I would say I know I came around 2 or 3 points there, but I would say most people, the sticker shock is really going, oh my gosh, taxes.
Mhm.
And it's just one of those things that Chad, Andrea, and I just sit down and talk with people in our initial visit to go, look, let's show you where your money's getting washed out.
So Josh, there's no boys playing girls sports there in Texas?
I got to be careful how I answer that. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, not that I've seen. I mean, look, I will say right now, my dad told me a long time ago, as a Californian, as a Texas family growing up in California, I couldn't wait to get back to Texas. And my dad told me years ago that if you want one thing too much, when you get there, it will not be what you think it is.
No.
Texas is not the be all save all. It is not going to be perfect by any means. The simple fact of the matter is you have a lot of like-minded people that think the same way, that are willing to stand up for what they believe in.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of our government officials. I mean, we still have a complete 90% state representation in Senate on the red side. I mean, regardless of where some of the cities that we may have, they're larger cities that would vote a little bit more blue. Our state is still very much run by very conservative people in our state legislature, senators, as well as a governor, and a lot of our local mayors and our local commissioners as well. It's a very, very, I'd say it's a very, very, very conservative area. But
Josh,
it really comes down to just breaking down taxes with people, because that once you get past that, you're good.
Josh, it's amazing to me that, you have to actually think about the way you said that. It's like, wait a minute, let me make sure I answer this politically correct. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had to do that. And it's just society. And I love this thing about freedom, getting out of California, having freedom. One of the last week, this is only, and by the way, for those of you that are sitting through this and listening about Texas and learning things of how to escape California, we really appreciate it. And the theme that we keep getting every week is, we talk about Californians going to new communities, and then everybody that's in the community, they're saying, you touched on this, Josh, we don't want the Californians here. We don't want them bringing all their voting. We don't want them bringing all their policies. We don't want California coming to Texas. And I think that it's exactly the opposite of that. We talked about that last week in our podcast. But Andrea, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And are the Californians coming to your cities and changing your towns?
I don't feel they're changing it at all, because like Josh said, they're like-minded people and they're fleeing California for the same reasons. And they chose Texas for what it is and the conservative part. Like when I moved here, I looked at all the things and we came a few times to visit, and people were so friendly. The kids were, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, and very respectful. And I just loved that. And I loved it. Was a Bible Belt state for me personally. So I mean, and I have many Texas friends, and I have neighbors from Illinois, from Kansas, from Colorado, from everywhere. So everyone comes here for the same reason, I feel.
Mm-hmm. And what did you think when I said that question about, you're sitting in California and you're debating it? What's going on in their head, and what's one thing that might be stopping them from going to Texas? What do they think about Texas that they don't really know because they haven't been there? What would you share?
The only negative I always hear is the property taxes are too high, and they say it's too humid. But where we're at in North Texas, it's nothing like if you're from Houston or live there, it's a whole nother world down there. The humidity is not that bad to me.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And this will go to all three of you. I kind of like to think about, we're talking about the landscape right now today. And I agree with you, Josh. I agree with you, Andrea, completely, that right now is a great time to buy. And you really should talk to a lender. I mean, you talk to a lender, you get free advice. You talk to a realtor, you get free advice. And, we're not just saying this. I mean, we really are passionate about what we do. We wake up every day. We want to help people get into a home. And we really, truly believe that now is a great time to buy, because the interest rates are going to come down. House prices might even come down. But that means something. There's going to be a cause and effect. So, Chad, I don't know if you had anything else on your notepad, but the question I wanted to hear about is, what does the future look like for Texas? And what are some really exciting things coming to the Dallas-Fort Worth area that somebody moving from California would have to look forward to?
Is that for Chad?
It's anybody. Anybody can take it.
Oh, Chad, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'll let the realtors know more about this than I do, but I mean, one of the big things that's coming to Frisco, I think, Josh, is Disneyland coming here.
Yeah, it's still kind of, I think it's a debate now whether Disney wants to be here because of the Florida deal. It's kind of, I mean, it's not a whole lot different here, but I mean, in North Texas. I mean, here's the cool thing. I mean, especially in the northern kind of Collin, Denton County area. I mean, you just had PGA of America relocate from Florida and actually put in a 54-hole golf course with all their headquarters and all these brand new communities that are around it. I mean, I know that Universal Studios is looking at coming to our northern counties. I mean, there's, every time I turn around, there's something economic. I follow about 7 different economic development presidents with cities in North Texas, and every one of them every month have something cool that you're just going, holy cow. I mean, I think what's more attractive, and I truly mean this, I think what's more attractive to families in California that when they come to visit is being able to go see some of the quaint little communities like McKinney or Weatherford and see the old downtown squares, or Salina now, and Denison, and these different areas, Fort Worth. I mean, Fort Worth, by God, you can still walk around on Friday and Saturday night and go in and out of restaurants carrying a beer from one restaurant to the other. Forget about open carry as far as your guns. You can just open carry your we're not gonna talk about Bud Light. We're gonna carry your Shinerbach here in Texas. But yeah, I mean, just the quaintness of being in these little cool areas where all the shops are mom and pop, all the restaurants are mom and pop. And it's very much about supporting local business. I think in general, that's something that as a kid, I remember in a lot of Southern California cities that completely went away and it doesn't exist. And when people come here and they see, hey, gosh, there's 54 cities in the next 2 months, they're doing Oktoberfest. Which one are we going to? But it's all about community. I mean, it really is. When you come to these cities, even the ones I think that are more urban, I think in general, families are going to find this is a lot more tight-knit community in a city that might have 250,000 than we would have ever thought. I mean, that's one of the big, I mean, obviously there's a lot coming to DFW. And and when you say that though, it's such a big region, but yeah. I think the reason that we came back to DFW in 2010, we left DFW from 2008 and 9 and came back in 10 was just truly the quality of life. I mean, that's all there's to it. I mean, we have 13 different lakes within a 40-mile radius. So if you love water, and there's plenty of water. If you like mountains, just go at the bottom of a ditch and look up. That'll give you kind of a concept of what our mountains look like. But I think it's quality of life when people get here. And I think all the other things are just kind of cool. But I think once people get here, and Andrea lives in a great place. I mean, had I been able to choose, 15 years ago when I first moved here, I would have gone to the west side of the state because it's going to remind you more of what people think of as Texan when they get here. It's going to have a really Texas feel. When you come to the east side over to Dallas and Collin County, it feels a little bit more like Orange County in some aspects in those bigger populated, urban areas.
So Terry, I have one more question, and we're going to be winding down here. Time's just flying by. It's been 45 minutes. We've been doing this, and we could talk Texas for a long time. Do you have anything on your notes there, Terry, that you wanted to ask these guys?
Yeah, well, actually, just a couple of comments for sure. The one thing I noticed when I go to Texas is that, even though people bring up property taxes as being high, again, as Josh educated me a long time ago, they actually put it into the schools. That's why the schools are top notch in the Dallas, Fort Worth, or in Texas for that matter, because you actually get something for your money versus the black hole that you pay your property taxes into in California. The other side of it is, as Josh said, no more state income tax when you move to Texas. And also, when I moved to California, I've mentioned this before, but when I moved to California from Texas in 1986, gas was less in California than it was in Texas.
Yeah.
Someone just posted in the groups the other day of almost $6 a gallon out in Central California. I paid $3.25 the other day in downtown Dallas, $3.25 a gallon. So that's a huge difference also. And the other thing that Texas does is they build freeways because they're growing. They're actually building freeways versus, again, California, which says, oh, no, we're not going to build any more roads because we want everyone to take mass transit and trains and everything else. And so you've got the infrastructure falling apart in California, both from the electric grid, also the roads, because they don't put any money into them because they don't want anybody driving, versus Texas, just like Florida does the same thing. They build a lot of roads because they are actually encouraging growth, and they know that the growth is coming, so they better build some freeways to be able to handle that.
Well, I really appreciate that input. Thank you, Terry. Basically, my thought is, and I want to make sure that we say this every week, and we're doing this podcast every Monday from different regions in the country. a lot of people on the Leaving California groups, they don't even realize that we have a network of over 330 premier realtors that's what we do. We help people that are trying to make this decision, and we don't take it lightly. And we know this is a big decision. So, but I want you to know that our stance is we're not telling you should leave. We're just a great resource for you, and we're going to continue to get to be a better resource. And we have people that can help save you time, help save you money, and that can help you with this plan. And you should not do this alone. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just going to do it myself. I don't even really need a realtor." I think that's a bad decision. So here's the thing. I would have really wanted you guys to share to these people that are watching this right now, that are thinking about, you know, maybe Texas would work. So what advice would you give them if they're really just sitting there and they're thinking, you know, I really want to get out of California. I'm thinking about Texas. What advice? Because Josh and Andrea, you both have experienced this. And if you could share a tip or a trick or something, or maybe what you went through, I think it would be really helpful for our listeners to hear that.
I'll let you start.
I always just advise that they come out and visit if it's possible and just do their research, you know, because it is a very stressful, hard situation, and we're just there for them, and we're there to help them and give them information about the towns and cities around here.
Okay, thank you.
And I totally agree. I feel like, first and foremost, as you stated a minute ago, you know, people always think it's expensive to hire real estate agents. Well, I mean, when you have the opportunity to come to a place that you're not familiar with, and you have local representation that can guide you during this process, and it doesn't cost you anything. The one thing that really stinks, I've had 5 different clients over the last 5 years that moved here that I did not have the opportunity to represent when they got here. And then all of a sudden they got referred to me by somebody else once they got here. And they were 6 months into an area that they said, well, this is where our realtor brought us. And we don't like it here as much as we like these other areas we didn't even know about. If you think that representation costs a lot, it costs a lot more for bad representation. And now that representation, someone's got to sell your home. And even if we discount our fees to help you with that, to get you to the next level, it still costs you money. Time is money, and opportunity, when it comes down to it, like Andrea said, it really matters. I mean, it's you know, every county in Southern California and Northern California are a little bit different. You don't just throw a dart against the wall and says, well, I'm going to just go there because I've heard some things. You want to come and actually take a look. And if you have people, you know, agents like Andrea and I that will put you in our trucks or our cars and spend the weekend with you, with the idea that we may even look at houses. We just want to make sure you're comfortable and you know where you're going to, where you want to end up. Take advantage of that. It's always been crazy to me not to take advantage of that, to do it on your own. I mean, the crazy part, I don't know what the statistics are. Terry, you probably can see it through the groups a little better than we are, but it is interesting to find how many people that have done it on their own got here and then reach back out through the group for representation when they are here, because now they need to sell. And in general, that's Andrea's specialty. Take her up on that. I mean, yeah, I would tell people, I don't work pro bono. If I don't do my job, then I shouldn't get paid. My job is not to sell you the home where I want you to live. My job is to find the perfect community for you and your family as you're making this transition. You know, I'll end on this too, because Terry knows I can get lengthy. If you let me to, I'll get lengthy. You know, I will say this, and I hope this resonates with a lot of men that are watching this. When I moved here in 2005, Chad knows my wife and my kids very well. When I moved here, I had a 6, a 4, and a 2-year-old. And life was phenomenal for me because I had a corporate job with First American when I came, and I was having lunches, and I was meeting Chad and a whole bunch of other guys. Life was good for me. I can assure you right now that my wife, for the first 6 months to a year, was here. She was crying every day with 3 kids at home because I had taken her away from everything she knew, her family being from California, all the different restaurants, friends, Bible studies, churches, work groups, you know, whatever it may be. I can tell you right now that good representation helps you avoid that. I mean, I didn't know how tough that was going to be. Be cognizant of how, while this looks romantic and it looks like a lot of fun, and it is, and I don't think you'll ever be disappointed making this move. There's a lot of sweat equity that comes into this for you as families when you do this, and making sure, you know, one of the things that I know that Andrea does phenomenally over on the west side really is reuniting and getting a lot of families that have moved here together to
Yes.
start community. You know, before COVID, Chad and I used to every 3 months have at my house a California invite where we invited every family in Collin County to come have some wine and cheese and some fun stuff in my
Aw.
house, just to meet each other, to create a community, because that is the most important piece of relocating. I mean, relocating can be an absolute bear as well. Once you're here, it's great when you're out searching for homes. And once you're here, you're like, crap, we're here. What do we do with our Friday nights? Who's our babies? All these different pieces. I think that's the real advantage of a great, I would say, consultant like Andrea and myself. And I say that about myself because I pride myself in the fact that I want to be more. I had a client the other day that moved here 3 months ago, and this is a 5th referral I've given her for something that she's needed since she moved here. And I want to be that person. If you need a painter, I had the weirdest inquiry. It made me feel a little uncomfortable, but I was able to get it taken care of. But I had my first client ask me about a gynecologist, you know, a referral. And I thought, well, I don't know, but I can find out. I can talk to a couple of different women or clients that have come. I mean, if, you know, but here's the beauty of that is they're calling me, asking me that because they know I'm going to try to connect them with someone they can trust. And that's a big piece, getting here and finding someone you can trust.
So, and that was something that was on my list. I didn't address. Thank you for.
We're going to talk about gynecologists.
No,
That's amazing, David.
no. Andrea, she is the she created a group and she created a meetup for people that live in her area that are from California. And Terry actually got to go to that event. And I would like to start seeing chapters of that all around the country.
Yeah.
And like-minded people like to be together. And can you share a little bit about that event? And Terry, maybe you could throw in what was the event like? Because I didn't get to go to that. Andrea?
We did it last year. We just met at a restaurant and everyone came and met up, but we did a couple events before that, just on the group. I was like, I moved to Weatherford and shared my story, and I met other ladies. And then we did a brunch one time and we met in Fort Worth for brunch. And then I developed friendships from that. And then we get together for coffee or things. And then we're like, hey, let's just meet up with everyone, with the husbands and the kids. We met at a restaurant. And this time we're meeting at a wedding venue that a friend of mine from Temecula, California, her and her husband purchased. And so they've graciously let us use their venue. And so we're just inviting people just to get together and make connections.
That's what this whole thing is about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Terry.
I was going to say it was a great time. It was great to meet people who were in the groups and enjoying life in America, in Texas, and it was great to meet Andrea face to face and her team. And it was just a great time. And then we also toured Andrea and Brandy went around to some new construction
Some new
homes
builds.
and new builds. Yes. So it was just great to get to see the area. So yeah.
All right, Chad, we're going to go back to you and you can do your parting last words, and maybe you can share a thought as a lender for people that are in California right now watching this. And they're like, you know, I really think I'm going to take this big leap and maybe I'm going to go to Texas. So maybe you could share something. Chad, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I said, it's just about just gathering information, finding the right information. You know, right now we have interest rates are up high. I mean, they're in the 7s. We're back in the low 7s. But again, we have special financing strategies with temporary buy downs or permanent buy downs to be able to offset that, because we do anticipate interest rates here in the next couple years to come down, probably starting next year. So like I said, we're happy to answer any questions, just be able to provide them the information that they need to make the best decision for their family.
And how can they get a hold of you, Chad, if they were wanting to reach out to a lender in Texas?
They can reach out, my cell phone number, they can reach out to me. That is 972-814-6552. They can also send me an email at chad@eaglemortgagetx.com.
Thank you, Chad. I really appreciate you joining us today. Josh, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Parting last words. You gave some great advice. It sounds like you really have a great handle on what's going on in your area. I would be totally happy referring you somebody that wanted to move to your area. I know that you would take care of them. You can just feel it. I mean, your passion, you live this, you breathe it, and you really are trying to help people. And that's the thing that I love about it. So go ahead. Parting words, Josh.
Well, I can tell you this, that some of you guys will be happy to hear this. Our governor passed over 700 executive laws was it Thursday, Andrea, Chad? Was that when it came in? So one of which some of you guys will be very exact. I mean, you guys will be very happy. So in the state of Texas now, if in fact we have another, I would call whatever you want to call the pandemic. If we have another one, it is now against the law in the state of Texas for schools or any government agency or private entity to enforce masks on any private citizen in the state of Texas. I mean, period, done. I mean, it's a law now. It cannot be done. If you're operating in the state of Texas, regardless of the operation or the Fortune 500 company you may be, you might have a Starbucks in that's located in Washington that has Starbucks all over Texas. In the state of Texas, they cannot mandate employees to do anything outside of state of Texas laws. That's really big, as well as, I mean, you asked a minute ago, and I know this is going to be, and this is not necessarily probably the answers that you were looking for, but I think these are important things for people to hear because you asked the question. There was also one of the laws that was actually passed on banning transgender athletes in the state of Texas, meaning that girls can't compete or guys can't compete in girls sports, period. I mean, and I know that's touching on probably a little bit edgy for some, but in general, that's what a lot of people they've been fed up. I mean, I was in California this summer and I have a lot of family that still live there, and to listen to the stuff that they're putting up with are things that are being enforced upon them. Mm-hmm. It's one thing what you do in your own house, that's fine. What you do in your own house is your business. But when a government agency or a state enforces and now it starts making you follow those rules, that's when freedom doesn't ring anymore. And so there's a lot of those different things. In fact, I can Google and send you guys a link to all the different laws that were passed. Some of them are great. Fentanyl, if you were caught selling fentanyl to someone that passes away in the state of Texas at dealing in fentanyl, you are absolutely going to the electric chair. It's now a law. You are going to be prosecuted and you are going to be executed based off of fentanyl distribution and sales. I mean, I know those are really kind of dark thoughts, but I mean, those are things that people that are on the West Coast are saying this is getting to the point where we don't even know where we can send our kids in public without them being in danger because no one's going to punish anything that happens. And so at least here, our governor has taken some really hardline stances, but they're hardline stances that in my opinion, do curb the parts of our country that are out of control with this woke ideology. I mean, so in that, guys, I love it. I can't wait to meet you. Andrea, I can't wait to meet you. I will tell you right now, I have referred a couple of people over to Andrea and she's phenomenal. I mean, I love her to death. She has the same amount of passion. We're just here to serve families that are looking for the next step in the next journey in their lives. And we're happy to help in any way possible. And sometimes that's just a phone call. Sometimes we're not going to have a chance to work with you, but we're open for those phone calls and just walking you through and giving you as much info as we possibly can.
So it was interesting that you brought up, and we didn't talk about crime at all, but since you touched on it just briefly, I lived in Houston. You don't mess with Texas, and crime is totally different. So you get away with a lot of stuff in California. I'm sure I know your crime statistics are way better in Texas. So that's another big bonus. So Andrea, parting last words. We're going to wrap up here. We're coming up at the top of the hour. This has been so much fun. Go ahead, Andrea.
I just wanted to say if anybody has any questions about North Texas, myself or Josh would be happy to help them and answer questions and let them know more about our area. And they just have to reach out.
Andrea, go ahead and share your email and phone number. And then Josh, after she's done, I'd like for you to share your contact information as well.
Sure.
My phone number is 817-304-7562. And my email is andrea@theplatinumgrouptx.com.
And my cell phone number is 469-215-8936. And my email address is joshualong@remax.net.
Terry, I'm super excited. Week 2 is in the books of our weekly podcast. Me and Terry made a commitment that for the next 52 weeks, at least minimum, we're going to go all around the country. We're going to share tips and tricks. I'm super excited. This went by so fast. And Texas, this was awesome. We did Las Vegas last week, and this one was just as good or better. I really appreciate you guys sharing. And this is helpful information for people that are thinking about leaving California. Terry, parting last words.
I just want to say, I know Andrea and Josh very well. They're both not just great realtors, they are also great people. So I would definitely recommend you reach out to them. And I know Chad is too, because Josh would not have brought Chad along if he wasn't also a great guy. So definitely reach out to them if you're interested in Texas. And again, even if it's just a conversation, start with that. And Texas should definitely be on your list, especially the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if you're considering leaving California, should definitely be on your list.
And again, I have to say it because one of the things we're doing with this group and with this podcast is we are trying to educate people that we have an amazing group. Over 330 realtors. We have lenders like Chad in the group. We have all kinds of moving companies. We have people that will help you. They will save you time, they'll save you money, and they'll save you stress. So please reach out to us. You're going to keep seeing more information, and we want to be there for you. We want to help you. Thank you all for listening. I hope this has been Labor Day and you guys joining us on a Labor Day. We appreciate it. We'll talk to everybody soon. Take care and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank y'all.